Wall Street. Do it right, build wealth, build life, economic empowerment, real tips, insight on the new Black Wall Street. It's on the new Black Wall Street. He's your host.
Hey, Grand Rising to you, beautiful people, man. Thanks so much for joining us here today on the Money and Power Show. I'm your host, ERGJ, your certified financial educator, CEO of ERGJ Enterprises, ERGJ Black Bazaar, and international best-selling author of the book, The Black Billionaires Club. The book that I wrote, guys, is a study of Black wealth. The book that I wrote is a study of the 12 richest Black people in the world today and how they built their wealth. And I just truly believe that if you want to be wealthy, that's a big if, by the way. But if you do, I recommend that you study wealthy people. Well, you can begin your study by picking up a copy of the book by going to the website, www.theblackbillionairesclub.com, www.theblackbillionairesclub.com. You'll find that link in the description above or below. Pick up your copy today. Today's episode is being brought to you by ERGJ Black Bazaar, the Afrocentric marketplace, which specializes in Afrocentric home decor, personal care products, and also Black art-inspired gifts. Here at ERGJ Black Bazaar, we are aware and I'll make sure that we put things out to be able to help our community in the way of personal protective equipment as we see the rise of COVID come back for round number 2. Hopefully you are protecting yourself. If not, we got what you want. We got what you need. We also do have CBD hemp products, electronics, home decor, personal care, and bathroom decor, and more. And we're super excited about our Black-owned business partnership. So when you come here and click on this link here, it's going to bring you to other Black-owned businesses who we have vetted and who we're connected to that you can actually do business with. We got True Laundry Detergent. In case you don't know about True Products, we do have a Black-owned laundry detergent company. We got a Black-owned air freshener and oil burning company. We got a Black-owned potato chip company. We got a Black-owned adult novelty store. We got Black-owned shoes and Black-owned apparel. We got Black-owned personal care products, Black-owned media, and also Black-owned education. So if you can't find them yourself, all you got, and then we got authentic Black-owned African shoes from Ghana, directly from another Black-owned company, which is going to be Global Group Economics. So if you're having a hard time finding other Black-owned businesses that you can patronize and do business with, just come on over to ERGJ Black Bazaar, click on the Black-owned Business Partners tab, and you'll find other Black-owned businesses that you can do business with. Now, we are adding to our list as we go along, as we do business with other Black-owned businesses and see they do business well. We do try to partner with them and add them to our list here on our site as we practice not only group economics, but inside of group economics, this thing called group marketing, where this is a virtual word of mouth spread that other people can find businesses that they can do business with. So this is what we do at ERGJ Black Bazaar, where we continue to support our own and continue to put out the message to buy Black and sell to everybody else. You can find more information by simply coming to the website, www.theblackbazaar.com, www.theblackbazaar.com. We want you guys to remember this, that once you shop Black, you never go back. That's right, man. Once you shop Black, you never go back, man. Hit like button and share button if you care. Like button and share button if you care. Want to find out just where you are connecting with us here from this morning as we get ready for our Money and Power show. And just want to let you guys know about this show. It's all about money and the power. It's where we teach and we educate and we discuss these concepts or these topics on money and power, being economics and politics, being what I consider to be cash flow, which would be economics, and then the cash rules, which would be the letter of the law as it relates to the money flow. And so there are laws that govern the flow of money, and then there are laws that govern how you actually acquire, use, and manage money. And so these particular two topics, which we have been conditioned not to talk about, we talk about here on the show. And hopefully, as you continue to tune in, or as you tune in at any point in time, you'll leave saying that I learned something new today. And for that, for me, is where I get my greatest joy, is that as an educator, for people to watch anything that I do and they say, you know what, I learned something, and I believe that leads to respect. At any rate, let's find out who's here today. Let us know where you're connecting from. What city, what state, what country, quite possibly. We're broadcasting across the World Wide Web, across Facebook and also YouTube this morning live. You may be catching a replay at a later date. We see that Ryan Great Scott has joined us this morning. Grand rising to you, brother. Thanks so much for being here today. Billionaire Tequila Tucker has joined us here this morning. Grand rising to you. Billionaire Vivian Reed is in the house. Thanks so much for joining us here today. Billionaire Phyllis George has joined us as well. You know she's going to be a billionaire. Look at that last name. Billionaire Sydney Mealy is in the house, man. Grand rising to you, man. Thanks so much for joining us out of Houston, Texas. Good morning to you, man. Thanks so much for joining us again. Billionaire Anthony Sims in the house out of Dallas, Fort Worth, who is actually our guest here today. And then also, again, out of Fort Wayne, Indiana, Miss Tequila Tucker. Thanks so much for joining us. Now, we're going to have a three-part show here today. I'm going to talk a little bit about, again, I got to keep on talking about, but I got a few more words to say, and I might be done. I'm not quite sure. We'll talk about this SuSu thing that's out. We'll also take a look at the market real quick, give you guys an update of what's going on, what we can expect this morning, today, as we move into the stock market. And then it is Black Man Monday as well. So we do have our guest who will talk to us a little bit from a different side of the insurance game that we make sure you got your notes. There's going to be some pineapple moments here today. But let me first start. Let me just go ahead and get out the way with my thoughts here, and just to share some things that I wanted to share this morning, because last night I really was pondering on some things. I was saying to myself, like, I've been doing this at least 10 years. As an educator, with a focus on teaching Black folk about money, and all these years, I have snooped out some stuff pretty quickly, and and made people aware of it. I'm probably about a 90% rate. I've been wrong a time or two. It is what it is. You're not always right. But and it's not about being right. It is not about being right. It's about saying, hey, let me look at this particular situation. Let me dive into it. Let me try to find as much information as I can out about it, and then let me just inform other people and let them make their decisions themselves. But I do kind of lean towards, okay, well, here's what I would suggest, and for anybody that actually asked for my opinion, because you know what? Why listen to me anyway? I just share what I learned. People can listen anyway. But as it relates to this cash gifting flower SuSu, which I want to talk about just a little bit. We did a show last night for those that missed it. It was a special show because Sundays is the time we can really gather people and really have the great conversation. And I want to first start by making sure that we are clear that this is not a SuSu. I want to be clear on that. They may call it that, but it's not. And let's understand the traditional SuSu, which is viable, which people use, and because this name is being used for something that it's not, is confusing people, and they think, oh, this is a good thing. A traditional SuSu is basically a group of people coming together, pooling their money together, and then using that same money to then assist the members of that group at particular times, typically at intervals, monthly, weekly, whatever the case may be. But people continue to put into the pot, and that money is the same that comes back out of the pot. There is no actual financial gain, but there is a gain in another way. Like if you run into a situation where you really need some money, need a down payment, want to buy the house, want to start the business, we have this cash pile that's been stocked up for our regular deposits into this particular pool, where we then can use these resources to be able to help the members of this particular group, club, association, whatever the case may be. It's been used for thousands of years. It's just a simple group economics philosophy, right? Some people call it a savings club or whatever, but at the end of the day, you're working with other people to pool money together for such a time in the future. Now here's a spin on the SuSu, right? We have these things called investment clubs, where same thing, people might pool their money together and then they go invest into a particular vehicle, i.e. the stock market or real estate or whatever, and then they're looking to get some type of financial gain. There is also taxes that must be that must be recorded because there is some financial gain off of the pooling of the money together for an investment. So let's understand that. There is also the concept of this thing called gifting, and this is the word that most people stick on, gifting. Yes, there is a clause, and you want to consult with tax officials and all that stuff. I'm just sharing what I understand. But get with your tax person. There are taxes or laws. Again, this comes down to the whole power part. When understanding tax laws, I'm not a tax professional, but there are tax people out there who are professionals in taxes, and they can tell you exactly what all the laws say. So I wouldn't even listen to somebody that's not a tax professional that's trying to tell me something about taxes. Again, that comes down to what we learned in The Richest Man in Babylon. You seek people that are wise in a particular area, and when it comes to getting information about a particular area. I mean, why would I listen to Joe Blow tell me about some tax code, but I'm not going to call my tax professional? That would absolutely make no sense. We got to start moving wiser, okay? We got to start moving wiser. I know, I'm going to talk about that in just a second, Bronson. Thanks so much. So I consult my tax professional, my tax consultant, my CPA, somebody like that, say, hey, what are the rules as it relates to this whole gifting thing? Now, I think that there's a rule saying you can gift up to $15,000. Some people, it's maybe $60,000, some cases or whatever. But that is someone who's got money, who's saying, you know what, I'm going to give this to somebody and let them do with it as they please, or they might put some rules around it, whatever. Might be a gift for a birthday. It might be a gift for whatever, right? And then that's it. Again, there's no attention to financial gain on the back end, saying, hey, let me do this so then later I can get this. Once you get to the point where you're saying, let me do this so later I can do this, we're not talking about gifting. We're not talking about gifting. We're talking about you intentionally went into this thing with the aim to actually gain. That's an investment. Regardless of what you want to say, regardless of how you want to call it, if you go into a thing with your money with the intention to reap money back in return, you are now doing what we call investing. Or you can call it lending, where you might be lending for something and somebody's giving you some return back. That's being your own bank. Let me say that again. Once you initiate with your money into something, whatever it is, for the purpose of you acquiring more money back in a prescribed time in the future, you are now an investor. And you fall subject under investor rules. Now, let's understand this as well. Cash, gifting, blessing, Loom, it's not new. These type of things, they just change names. They change the people who run them. And it comes back around. And it comes back around. We've seen this before. So don't get confused, because again, I'm an educator. You're going to do whatever you want to do anyway. I'm here to just kind of make sure that you are clear on what you're doing. If you decide to participate in this not so new thing, where you're going to put $500 and send it to somebody you don't know, never heard of before, and then you trust this system or process to then be able to recruit 2 other people that didn't have $500, and then they have to recruit 2 other people that didn't have $500, and it keeps going, and then eventually one day somebody's going to send you some money that don't know you. Does that make any sense? Now, here's the biggest problem that I found so far, right? Just the biggest, there's a lot of red flags, but here's the biggest problem, is that it's all built on the recruitment of others. So at some point, the recruiting will stop. And when the recruiting stops, I want you to hear this very clear. I want to make sure that you tag somebody and they understand it. Because see, the people who are really, really trying to benefit and recruiting the hardest, they are not going to try to, you can't talk wisdom to them. They've already made up their mind. They say, I'm going for it. Right now, here's the deal. We got people in our community who've actually built stuff that you can put your $500 into. But you won't put your $500 with people that you trust, but you will put your $500 in something with people you don't know and don't trust. How stupid is that? So So when the recruiting stops, okay, because it will stop because eventually you're gonna get the people who don't know how to recruit. That's just a natural phenomenon. People that's in MLMs or multi-level marketing, network marketing, direct companies, whatever. You eventually get the people who simply don't know how to recruit. They have no influence. They don't know how to bring people in. Nobody trusts them or believe them. It's the broke folk at the bottom of the pyramid, and nobody trying to follow them. When the recruiting stops, there's going to be people that are left in the middle. These people have given their $500. The person that was at the top of the flower or the bud of the flower, whatever, they got their 4,000. And now you got all these people who are stuck in the middle who made their $500 investment, and the flower dies. Now let's take it a step further. What happens after that? What happens after that is these people that believed in this system, they gave their $500. They brought two other people in there with them. But they didn't make it to the top. They didn't get paid. Not you, nor the people that you brought in with you, nor the people that they brought in with them. None of y'all made it to the top. What do you think is going to happen to these relationships? Or what do you think is going to happen? Somebody gonna say, "Oh, I get my money back about whatever money necessary." One of those people gonna be the people that puts together some type of class action lawsuit. They're gonna start going after people who they can't go after the people they don't know because they didn't know them to begin with. They can't find them, but they can go after the people that they did know. What do you think is gonna happen? We've seen this before, but see, what I was reminded of last night, it reminded me of this. We've been reading the Bible, right? And it talks about how there are two people in the street. There's Lady Wisdom who's calling out, saying, "Come over here, come down to my house. You know, we'll have a nice meal. Come over here." And then there's the prostitute saying, "Come over here. You know, get rich quick. You know, let's lay in bed together." And lo and behold, that same story from the Bible from over 2,000 years ago is still alive today because people are still listening to the prostitute. And they're getting pimped over and over again. You got to ask yourself, am I a student or am I a trick? Oh, yeah, it get real up in here. It get real on this show. You got to ask yourself, am I a student who's going to hear Lady Wisdom and I go over there to learn, or am I the trick who gets pimped by the prostitute? And then, notice this. What do tricks do? They begin to complain and cry victim when they get victimized. And they put themselves in a situation because they wouldn't listen to Lady Wisdom. Are you a student or are you a trick? Because tricks get pimped. That's the name of the game. Pimping ain't easy, but somebody got to do it. Okay, that's all I got to say about that. I'm going to leave it alone. I said my piece. I said my piece back in the day about Punch TV Studios. People didn't want to listen to me then. I said my piece about Snapchat. People didn't want to listen to me then. I've been doing this for over a decade. Some people listen. Some people don't. Most people won't. Do your research. Do your due diligence. Listen to wisdom. Our people perish for lack of knowledge and because they reject knowledge. Get wisdom, the principal thing, right? Wisdom is the principal thing. Get wisdom and get understanding. Hey, let's take a look here. What's going on here? I'll bring my man in just a second. I just had to get that. You know what? Your brother has something on his chest. Had to get off, man. That's what it is, man. Take a quick look at the stock market and we'll talk about, we'll bring our brother in, man, to share with us some information on here on Black Man Monday. Just wanted to make sure I covered this real quick. Just to give you guys a kind of an update as we move into today, this magnificent Monday. Futures are actually up. Do I have that on the screen? No, I don't. Futures are actually up, guys. So we can actually, it's looking like the market is going to actually open up in a pretty good space. So we might look to see some small increases as the market opens up. This is actually private equity money that's actually moving overnight and through the through what we call pre and post hours of the market. And then also wanted to take a look here. I wanted to show you guys this real quick. For those that's in the BBC, we had this conversation on Wednesday. We'll continue to have more conversations on Wednesday as it relates to strategy of moving in or investing in the market. Understand that right now the market is going down. And one thing that I'll share with you guys is that right now you should really be preparing yourself to strike. You should really be stockpiling your cash up so that, and also building up your watch list and watching very carefully so that when the time is right, you can actually strike. Somebody brought up Facebook. I'll take a look at that as well for you guys because that's something that I mentioned on Friday to my group. But notice this. This is one thing I really want you to notice, that the emotion that's driving the market. Now, my mentor, Warren Buffett, who is the fourth richest man in the world, says this: to be fearful when others are greedy and to be greedy when others are fearful. The basic concept is that, hey, when you see everybody doing one thing, you do the other. And if you do opposite of what everybody else is doing, you will have success in this world and success when it comes to money. So when people were getting greedy, when the market was being pumped up, when a lot of money was coming into the market, people were pushing the prices up. He was saying, hey, hold off, don't be buying, look for opportunities to sell so that you can actually capture some profit. But then when the market starts to depress or recede or digress, when people are selling, well, that's when you should be in a position where you're looking to find stuff at a great value and you buy. It's a very simple concept or philosophy that's a little bit more difficult to accept or comprehend or gather or transmute or translate your mind to, because we may not have been thinking about life that way. But if you really think about it, whenever the crowd is going in some particular way, i.e. this cash gifting, blessing Loom thing, that's a whole crowd of people going that way. You simply look, you say, oh, that's what everybody else is doing. And you say, no, I'm not going to do that. And you're going to be all right. When everybody's going some direction, it typically shows you that the majority of people who are broke are following, or the blind are leading the blind, and that's nowhere but to the slaughter. But it's the few. Everybody put in the comments on the few. The few who decide to go the opposite direction, who end up owning and controlling, who end up acquiring wealth, who end up building up their neighborhoods, who end up buying the land that nobody wanted, and then we call it gentrification. These are the few. And you got to ask yourself, am I going to be a part of the many, or am I going to hang out with the few? See, the many are broke, busted, and disgusted. The few capitalize off the many. Now, we might not like this from a socialistic standpoint because, we care about these people. But we're not talking about it from a socialistic standpoint. We're talking about it from a capitalistic standpoint. And as Miss Tamara just said, a sucker is born every day. Another quote says this: a fool and his money will soon part ways. And where does that money go to? It goes to the people who are wise in the handling of money. Ask yourself, who are you listening to? I'm listening to the fourth richest man in the world. I'm listening to the black billionaires of our day. When it comes to money, particularly when it comes to money, who are you listening to? Poor dad or rich dad? Now, just because Brother Bronson brought it up, I'll take a look at Facebook real quick, because this was something I mentioned to you guys on Friday, I believe. I believe it was Friday. And I said, hey, look what's going on with Facebook. So I pulled it up for you guys. We saw Facebook had a 8% drop in one day on Friday. 8% down, which is silly, right? And this was all because of the whole, thing with some advertising or something like that. And the Verizon Wireless said they're going to pull back their resources. But then, you know what I said to myself, guys? I asked myself this: who needs who more? Does Verizon need Facebook more, or does Facebook need Verizon more? And I started thinking to myself, well, Facebook got over some multiple billion people users on a day. Facebook is where people are. And Verizon needs to find their way to the people. I said to myself, Verizon needs Facebook way more than Facebook needs Verizon. This is only temporary. Facebook made an adjustment, and guess what's going to happen? I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. The same thing that's been happening with Facebook is going to continue to rise because Facebook has learned this one simple principle when it comes to finances or business. Facebook has learned to get to the money. Oh, you don't know what I'm saying? Okay, I'm sorry. Let me take a look. Let me help you guys out for a second. So here's Facebook over the past year. It's been up 15%. Here's Facebook over the past 3 years, 42%. Here's Facebook over the past 5 years, 145%. It's been going up, 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 up. But that's not the most important thing. Facebook has learned, look at this, how to get to the money. The total, I'm just going to look at this total up here. Total revenue, 2014, under 20 billion. 2015, right under 20 billion. 2016, about 24 billion. 2017, about 30 billion. Oh, that's 40 billion. 2018, about 50 billion. That's in sales. And we can see it here. 17.9, 27.6, 40.7, 55.8. How many guys would like to see that with your business? That every year you're increasing in sales, and this is astronomical, right? Then every year you're increasing in net income. This is why Facebook is a beloved stock for investors. It's how we know that this small little dip, because it's not affecting, it's going to affect their financials temporarily, but it's not going to have a huge impact, especially if they can recover real quick and garner even larger contracts based upon what they decide to do from a social standpoint. Gross income increase. Facebook is a beast. And I just simply ask people, like, listen, as much time as you spend on Facebook, because we're on Facebook right now, ask yourself why you don't own none if you don't. As much time, I mean, because here's what I be saying to myself. Man, I come in so much, I feel like I own the place. I might as well own me some. That's how I look at it. Especially if I feel like it's a great company, and Facebook has shown over time to be a great company. They done bought out Instagram, in case y'all don't know. Facebook owns Instagram. They own WhatsApp, in case y'all don't know that. They own WhatsApp. Okay, they own Oculus, in case y'all don't know what that's, a virtual reality. And they know how to get to the money. Everybody put in console, get to the money. They know how to get to the money. That's what business is about, getting to the money. All right, man, let's bring in my brother. I don't want to take up too much of our time. I can go on and on, but I'll do more tomorrow or Wednesday, Thursday. We got 5 days a week. We can talk about this. I want to bring my brother Anthony Sims in. This brother here is a great educator as well. This is why I love just listening to him. I got my pen. I got my paper ready as well. Hopefully you do. Let me introduce you guys to brother Anthony Sims is in the house. What's going on, brother?
Hey, Evan, how you doing?
I'm doing all right, man. Thanks so much for joining us here today. Black Man Monday. I know you want to talk to us a little bit about a different side to this thing called insurance, man. But if you could, go ahead and introduce yourself to the people. Tell them who you are, what you do, why you do what you do, and why we should listen to you, man.
All right. Well, I'm Anthony Sims. I'm from Dallas, Texas. I've got over 20 years in the insurance industry, being on the corporate side and also on the sales side. And currently, I am a sales manager at a combo location, funeral home, cemetery, crematory. And that's kind of what we want to talk about today as we kind of get forward to that. Because I usually come on and I speak more about the benefits of life insurance. I think everybody kind of knows about the benefits of life insurance and how it can change a family's financial trajectory. And generally, if you get the right type of life insurance product and you use it properly, you can change the financial pathway of your family going forward, because it can create generational wealth. It can change. Life insurance is one of those tools that can change a family for the better at their darkest moment, I guess. Because losing somebody, we all don't want to lose anyone, but I would always tell my clients that somebody in your family should profit from your death. And most of the times when someone passes away, the family goes broke. And that's what I want to focus on today. Because generally, if you sit down with a life insurance professional, they should go over a couple of different points. And to make this kind of easy, I kind of put it in like an acronym. It's called LIFE. The L stands for your liabilities. The I stands for your income. The F stands for your funeral services. And the E is for the education of those you leave behind. Today, I want to focus on the F, the funeral part of it. And Evan, let me know if you want me to just keep going or you want to interject here and there.
Yeah, one second. I'm trying to pull this off. So life, man. Give us these 4 acronyms. Now, these 4 acronyms, this acronym with these 4 letters are for what again? I know that you mentioned it, you said, but you put this as it relates to these 4 areas that you want to touch on. Say that again.
Yeah. So you when you meet with a life insurance professional, you want to focus on this because this is going to tell you how much life insurance you need. Because when someone passes away, you need to take care of all the liabilities that they leave behind. So you need to be able to pay off Big Mama's house, pay off the cars, pay off all the medical bills, that kind of stuff, student loans, whatever. So you want to be able to take care of that. Once you have that number, you're taking care of your L because you've wiped out all the liabilities. The I.
All right, one second. Everybody put in console liabilities. I want everybody put in console life, hashtag life. We're breaking this thing down. We got a professional here that's kind of give you a scope, and even I really want you guys to write this down because I want you to start thinking about this, even if you haven't talked to a life insurance professional. I mean, what are we gonna do about these bills that have been created or generated or occurring? If I should be called home to the heavens, right? Liability. Go ahead, brother.
All right, and the next is the I is the income, because in a 2-parent household or a 1-parent household, somebody is depending on your current income to pay the immediate bills like your mortgage, the car note, whether it be education expenses, your utilities, whatever. So somebody needs to be able to replace your income, and for how long. And I focused on this part of it because most of us have children. And so any child that we have that's under the age of 21, we need to take whatever our current income is and multiply it by however many years it's going to take for your youngest child to turn 21. Because by 21, they should be an adult, they should be working or getting ready to graduate from college or what have you. So that replacing your income, you need to know how long you need to replace your income for. That's what the I is for.
Okay, that makes sense, right? So we have so now we can actually define this thing. These are numbers. We can actually put some parameters and define this thing. So liabilities is an area to discuss, put a plan around. Income is an area to discuss, put a plan around. And then this F word, this funeral expenses, man. What's going on here?
Yeah, the funeral expenses, let's talk about that for just a moment, because most of the times when an insurance professional comes by to visit, and I'm saying come by to visit because most of us are around in our 40s, and we remember being at our Big Mama's house or our grandmother's house, and this white guy would come down with this big briefcase, and he would sit down in the kitchen or in the living room with your grandparents, and they would peel off a couple $20 and they would hand it to him, and then he would go on down the street. And what he was doing is he was selling them a life insurance policy that was basically useless at that particular time. And what would go on is he would say, well, we know you got all this stuff to take care of, but if you were to die, do they have the money to pay for the funeral that you deserve? Now, let's think about that for a moment, because in the Black community, we all know how we can spend a lot of money at the funeral home. And so what we don't realize is when let's just say in a perfect scenario, you have a life insurance policy, and you're going to use that to pay for the funeral of a loved one that has passed away. Let's say you got a $25,000 life insurance policy, and you go into the funeral home and you say, okay, I got this policy and I want to make sure that this funeral is taken care of. Well, you don't actually have $25,000, because most funeral homes can charge you anywhere from 5 to 10% of your payout as a fee just for you using that life insurance to pay for that funeral. So let's think about that for a moment. You think you got 25,000, but you're automatically going to lose 5 to 10% right off the top. So you're less than what you thought you had when you come in there. Now, let's think about that for a moment, because a lot of people don't realize that, or when you're in the process of grieving and you're trying to take care of the funeral expenses for a family member, you're hearing what they're saying, but you're not really understanding because you're emotional and you're really trying to just kind of get out of the funeral home, because nobody likes to hang out at the funeral home. So you're just trying to get out of it. You're trying to get what you can get and move on. But that 5 to 10% can change how you're going to do anything, because when you sit down in front of somebody that's trying to, and don't get this twisted, they might care, but they're also trying to sell you something. And you have to realize at this point how you want to have your funeral taken care of. You have to think about that, because most people don't think about it beforehand. So I'll give you a personal example. Like I said, I'm a sales manager at a combo location. And let me explain what that is, because this is also an important key when it comes down to planning for a funeral. So typically we see funeral homes everywhere, especially in the hood. There are funeral homes almost on every corner, but that's just all it is. They're the people that come when your loved one passed away. They go to the hospital, to the hospice center, or to your house, wherever it is. They receive your loved one and they take them back to their funeral home to prepare them for a visitation and for the actual burial or cremation or whatever it is that you plan on doing. But they have no property. So where are you going to get the property from? Because you have to lay them to rest somewhere. So now, if you just go to a regular funeral home, now not only do you have to deal with them, but now you have to go find a cemetery, and then you have to buy the property. So now let me take a step back here and tell you about the funeral expenses, about the funeral process itself. So there are 5 components to a fully planned out funeral. There's your property. That means where you're going to be laid to rest at, whether you're going to be entombed, placed in the ground, or cremated. So there's your property. Then there's your actual funeral. That includes your casket, your visitation, your services, the DVD that plays the pictures, the music, all that stuff, the flowers. That's for your funeral expenses. The third part of it is your opening and closing interment or entombment fees. Now that's a fee that you pay just for them, the crew, to go out, for lack of better terms, dig the hole or open up the mausoleum. So there's a fee for that. And for them to also close it once everything is done. That's putting the dirt back, putting new sod down, planting the flowers that the family has brought, all of that good stuff. Then you're looking at, if you're doing traditional burial, you're looking at an out of burial container or a vault. There are two ways you can look at that. We can talk about that a whole nother time, but I don't want to kind of get in the weeds of this. And then the fifth part of it is your memorialization, or your headstone, or your memorial, your marker, whichever you want to call it. So those are the 5 components. Let me go over that one more time. There's your property. There's your funeral. There's your open and closing fees. There's your out of burial container or your vault. And then there's the memorial or headstone. All this goes into that one thing. So now if you go to just a standalone funeral home, they can only take care of one aspect of that. Sometimes 2. One aspect being your funeral, the other aspect being your headstone. They can probably take care of those 2 things, but you still got to go to somebody else to take care of the cemetery part. This is where it gets kind of tricky at, because if you go to a standalone location, they're going to focus mostly on the funeral. And if you got a $25,000 life insurance policy, they're going to try to get all that $25,000. And then you still got to find somewhere for your loved one to be laid to rest at. So they're not primarily thinking about, oh, you got these other components. They're only thinking about their one component. So let's think about that, as we go forward.
Let me ask
Yeah,
you a question, bro. This is, I mean, of course, this is a difficult thing to discuss, but it's again, adult conversation. We're all getting older. And I'm thankful that I mean, I don't know too many places that have a conversation like this, so I appreciate you coming on and talking to us about this. But I can imagine because again, we're in a capitalistic society, and although we're talking about death and funerals and stuff like that, the funeral home is still a business. You know what I'm saying? And you know, they deal with death all the time, so it's really not nothing new for them, right? But it's still a business, and they see that insurance, that's like guaranteed money. Oh, we about to get paid. I mean, you know what I'm saying? So, man, immediately when you start talking, I was like, I can imagine how many funeral. I mean, we see it all the time, are underfunded. Like, and you know, for whatever reason, because again, you missing these four components. We even got to the educational piece, but in this policy that is created, you know, it's certain things that we very rarely. I can't imagine many of us really thinking about, you know, our death, right? And we might, you know, get to the will. We might, you know what I'm saying, do our will and trust, and we might maybe put a plan together for the estate when it comes to actually how to handle my own funeral. I mean, that's even hard for me to even think about. Like but anyway, but I imagine you see a lot of, you know, with tensions or emotions are high, and grief and despair and is in the land, and now you find out there ain't enough money in the policy.
Yeah.
Go ahead, brother. I don't even know what to say.
Well, you know, I mean, this is the thing about that. You can pre-plan for your funeral. Most people don't want to think about that, but you can pre-plan for it. And so if you pre-plan for it, that means you've taken care of all this stuff before you actually need it. So this is when you can take advantage of any discounts that they may offer, because, you know, trust and believe, at the time of need, most funeral homes are not going to be offering a discount at the time that you actually need their services. Because at that point, where else you going to go? Because it's not like you can walk down the street and say, okay, well, this person said this, so this person, you know, can you give me a better deal? Because they're all like, well, you need us. We don't need you. So now they're going to drain you, or they can drain you. Let's put it like that. They can drain you. You know, I'm not saying that funeral homes, funeral directors, and so forth are an evil bunch, but like we said, it's a business at the end of the day. It's a business. And so it's better for you to go in and make these arrangements beforehand, because the good thing about pre-arranging for this and we're not talking about life insurance at this point. We're just talking about funeral expenses. If you pre-arrange for a funeral, you lock in today's money, because we know nothing in this world goes down when it comes down to paying for services. Nothing goes down. It's only going to go up. So if you lock in today's prices, if you don't need it for another 20, 30 years, when you walk in there, when your family walks in to set your arrangements and set the date that you're going to be laid to rest, if you paid $10,000 for it 20 years ago, they're going to honor whatever it is you put in that plan for that $10,000 that they already got. If you walk in there today with no pre-arrangements and that same funeral is now $30,000, you're going to pay $30,000, regardless of what it might have cost 10 years ago or 20 years ago. So that's something you need to be thinking about also.
Wow. And you know, and just what have you seen as it relates to different communities? How soon do you see, you know, other ethnic groups really start planning for their own funerals?
At marriage. So, you know, I've seen right now, with the COVID and everything that's going on, I'm starting to see a lot of baby boomers come in at this point. These are people that were gifted cemetery property that was purchased back in the 20s. and 30s that their family members might have paid $1 or $2 for. And that same property now might sell for $30,000 for just a space in the cemetery. So their family's forethought on let's get this now has been tremendous in saving them a lot of money in today's economy. And so that's generally when people first start thinking about it. Or they just had a child and they say, well, you know what? I need to make sure that my children don't have to suffer financially when something does happen to me, when my time does come. So they're thinking about, I don't want my family to suffer financially, so let's take care of this now while I got the money.
And would you say, based on your experience, I mean, because I sometimes I don't necessarily, I know that there are always faux pas, but we see the whole, GoFundMe stuff and all that. But is that really a good representation of our community? Because
yes, it is. Yes, it is. It is. And I met with a family. Let's see, today is Monday. It was Friday afternoon. They went to another funeral home, a Black-owned funeral home. They had a $10,000 life insurance policy. And so they went over there first, and then the funeral home told them, okay, now you need to go over here because they have a cemetery. So you need to go talk to them. And so I did the park tour. So we go around and look at the different places, and they pick out a space that they like. We come back to talk about the money. And the lady says to me, well, that's included in everything with the funeral home. And then I said, well, no, ma'am. If you remember when we talked about from the very beginning before we went out into the cemetery, I said that there are 5 components of it. You've only taken care of one of those with the $10,000 life insurance policy. And she said, well, why did the funeral home give me a $10,000 funeral when they knew I had to come over here? And I said, well, because they got their money. Your loved one is already over there in their care. So they got their money. Everything else is on you. And so that caused her to go back to them and say, look, I need to be able to do all of this with that $10,000, not just your part. And so now me and that other funeral director are having a going back and forth of who's going to give and who's going to take, because this person's loved one passed away a week ago. And, here we are going into the second week, still discussing what they're going to do. And so, in some communities, I've seen funeral homes that have food trucks. And when a family comes in and they can't afford the entire funeral services, they'll say, look, we got this food truck out there. You can go and take a little bit of money and get you some chicken and go out to the park and fry some chicken and sell some chicken plates or some fish plates or something, just so you can pay for the rest of this. Or you see people that, like we talked about, the GoFundMe accounts. I think like 80 to 90% of GoFundMe accounts out there are for taking care of a funeral. So, I mean, that's something to think about. And the majority of the people, when you look at those pictures, they look like us, because we haven't sat there, we haven't done the due diligence. Or when the person calls us to talk about it, we don't want to listen, because we do not like talking about death. When we all know, we all want to go to heaven, but we don't want to die to get there. And then we don't want to prepare for that death beforehand, so we don't leave our family in a lurch or in a financial, putting them in debt by not planning.
Ms. Phil George got a question for you. What happens when you do plan for their services and when you transition the company or no longer exists, or you no longer live in the state when that happens? What happens then?
That's a good question. So let's deal with the first part first. The company goes out of business. So anytime you pre-plan for funeral services, it goes into a trust. That trust is managed by the state. The state's not going out of business. So if that funeral home goes out of business, that money is there in a trust. And then whatever funeral home you decide to go to next, you let them know. I don't know if can you still hear me?
I can still hear you, but you frozen, but I can still hear you.
Okay, so when that funeral home goes out of business, you go to the next funeral home and say, well, look, I prepaid with this particular company. And then what will happen is they will contact the state about that trust and pull that money in to pay for your funeral. That's what happens in that situation. The second part of it is if you move to a different state. So when you move to a different state, there's an organization called the International Funeral Directors, Funeral Home and Cremation Services or something like that, that most funeral homes belong to. And if you go from, let's say you go from Georgia to Texas, your Georgia funeral home will call the Texas funeral home, and they will transfer that policy to that funeral home in the new state.
So that would mean then that when it comes to, and I imagine that's for any, I mean, with an insurance product or a funeral product, it's a national product then, right? It's not.
Well, not necessarily national. So, what can happen, in that situation is like certain states have certain rules for selling prearrangements. And so when you transfer that to another state, the rules in that state might be a little bit different, but that's what that organization is for, to facilitate that transfer.
Okay.
And they usually do that at no cost to the family to transfer.
Is there Brian, you still froze, but we can hear you. Is there something? What? Give us just one quick thing. We're going to be wrapping up soon, but something that we, that's like really need to know, but we just don't know, and we don't know what we don't know, but it'd be good to know.
Okay. Well, one thing is one thing that we don't know that we need to know is that we should start thinking about this early, because we all have, our grandparents or our parents, or even, with this day and age with COVID going on and, being killed by the police and, all the stuff that's going on in the world. This is one thing that we're not thinking about until we actually have to. So the good thing is to sit down with somebody and at least find out what it costs in your area, what you want that costs in your area. And so that way you can adjust. You can, because when we walk in there, I mean that nice mahogany casket looks real good, but that $30,000 price for just the casket might not be within our budget. So we need to go and see what we want as opposed to what we can afford. We need to find that out first. Secondly is we need to know a little bit more about our family, because the first thing that they're going to ask you are going to be questions so that they can fill out the death certificate. And it surprises me of how many of our people don't know their parents' names or their grandmother's maiden name. And we think to ourselves, well, why is that important? Well, that's something that goes on your death certificate. The state has to know, because they want to know who you belong to, or who you belong to, and how your families are connected. They keep track of all that stuff.
So say that again. You said how many people don't know what again? Because I thought
their grandmother's
I thought you were gonna say something like date of birth, but you just said their names.
Yeah. Their grandmother's maiden name.
Or their
think about that. Huh?
I don't think I know I do not know my grandmother's maiden name. I never met my grandmother was dead before I do not know that. Go ahead.
Exactly.
I know my mother's maiden name, but you said my grandmother's maiden name.
Your grandmother's maiden name. Because think about it, if you're planning for your mother's services, you need to know her mother's maiden name.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I'm not even. Okay. And then you said, but you said two things. You said something before that. Your grandparents' last name?
Well, yeah. So for example, a lot of us never met our grandparents, right? Some of us have never had the privilege of meeting our grandparents. So we might know, Pawpaw as Pawpaw George, but his name might have been William. His name might have been William George, but we don't know that. And that's information that will hold up your death certificate. And what are your death certificates used for? To close out your bank accounts so that you can claim that life insurance policy, so that you can transfer titles for vehicles, transfer deeds to property. You need a death certificate for that. And if you can't get it,
wait a second. You're going too far. Hold on. Ain't nobody ever taught me about this. Hold on a second. What a death. Okay, let's go slow here. What a death certificate is used for? Okay, let's hit this again.
So you need a certified copy of a death certificate to get access to the deceased person's bank accounts, their health insurance benefits, their life insurance benefits. So you can't even claim that life insurance policy without a death certificate.
Right. That makes sense.
Okay. So now your loved one had a vehicle that you want to use the life insurance to pay for, but you can't register that vehicle in your name until you get the title changed over into your name. But if the person is deceased and they can't sign for it, you need a death certificate to transfer that title into your name.
Man,
if they own a, go ahead.
I want to reach out to the audience. And I see your question, Mr. Freeman. And this is just a question because who in the comments below, as it relates to your immediate family, and obviously we're talking about your parents. Who in your family do you think is like the person that's going to be responsible for handling the estate? Like, it's like, you know what I'm saying, that's got to kind of take care. Is it you? Is it your sister, your brother? You know what I mean? Who's the person, you know what I mean, that's like going to have to kind of manage this stuff, you know, while they're dealing with the whole grieving process to close out accounts and take care of the transfer process or complete the transfer process from the deceased to the beneficiaries of that deceased. You know, is it you? Is it you think it's gonna be somebody else? Or it's going, you know, like this real talk, man. Okay, go ahead, brother Anthony. This is good stuff, man.
Well, see, going back to your question, who's gonna do that? Now, there's a chain of custody of who the next of kin is, and the chain of custody goes like this. So, of the deceased, the first person who is the next of kin is their spouse. If there's no spouse, then it's their children. And all the children, so let's say if there are 3 children and they all have to sign off on everything. So let's just say we don't talk to Ray Ray no more. So 2 of us talk, but we don't talk to Ray Ray. We don't know what Ray Ray is. That can hold everything up.
Wow.
So let's say there are no children. Then you got the parents of the person that passed away. Let's say the parents are no longer there. Now you go to the siblings of the person that passed away. And then if there are no siblings, then you go into cousins and so forth. So another important document that you can have when you're preparing everything is a form called the right of final disposition. And I'm going to say that one more time. It's a form called the right of final disposition. That gives somebody the authority to make decisions for you at your time of death.
Wow. Now, Brother Anthony, Thomas asked, I guess it was about the transfer process. Do you get it at the original cost at the new funeral home? I guess during this whole.
Okay. So if you're transferring a funeral, then they're looking at it by line item, the type of casket, how much you pay for flowers. They're looking at the embalming costs. They're looking at all those expenses line by line, and then they're going to say, yes, we accept it as it is. So you're not going to have to pay any more. If it's already paid off, you're just transferring those services to a new funeral home. And then at the time of death, then that funeral home will collect everything from that trust on your behalf. Now let's talk about if you have cemetery property. So if you buy cemetery property in Georgia and you move into Texas now, whatever you paid for that property in Georgia, they're going to give you something comparable in Texas. And if you want something more, then you pay the additional fees.
Okay, fantastic, man. So Ms. Ross said, man, right in time. This is one of my to-do lists for 2020. Yeah, man. Hey, right on time. Won't he do it? Hey, Miss Aaron said, I already know I have to do it. Miss Glory said, yes, your sister is the executor. That's the word, executor. All right, Phyllis George said, man, I had to do it after.
Hold on 1 second. Executor is different than the person that has final right of disposition, because your executor executes how they're going to take care of your stuff, not how they're going to take care of your funeral.
Okay, so language is important, and obviously this stuff is detailed out. So,
Yeah.
if they're the executor, and so there, you saying there could be a form that's filled out that says this is the person who's going to take care of my funeral stuff, but it could be different than the person who has been listed as the executor on the estate account. Is that what we're saying?
Exactly. Because your estate don't get done until after you've already passed away and you've gotten those death certificates in your hand. Death certificates can take anywhere from 10 to 15 days for them to process and get shipped out.
Okay. Cool.
Just like a will. Just like a will gets read after the fact.
So let me ask you this, Brother Andy. From the time of passing to, if everything is in order and lined up properly or whatever, what's the real kind of time frame from passing to, let's just say, transferring of, kind of give us some idea here. I mean, I know, some things take longer than others and we have all these hiccups, but if in a perfect world, what does that time frame look like from, okay, passing, get the funeral together, go through the funeral process, and then, obviously death certificate to then accounts and all that stuff. I mean,
Okay.
What kind of time frame are some of these people that's going to have to take on this task? What are they looking at?
So we're talking about perfect world scenario.
Yeah.
So let's just say someone passes on today. So they passed this morning. You contact the funeral home this afternoon. They can get you in there as late as this afternoon or tomorrow. From the time you meet with that funeral director, you can have your funeral services within 48 hours. That's in a perfect world. So now we're moving on to when you can start taking care of that person's stuff. It's going to take you 10 to 15 business days in order for you to get a death certificate before you can start following up. So you're looking at 30 days to handle. The next 30 days is when you can start taking care of the financial aspect of it, because you'll have your death certificates in hand, and then you can start making your rounds to the banks, the health insurance companies, the life insurance companies. Those are the main things you want to take care of first. Getting utilities and stuff shut off. If they have Social Security, you want to get all that stuff done in the first 30 days. After the first 30 days, you start taking care of things like turning off, like transferring titles and deeds and those kind of things. So the first 30 days are important to take care of accounts, life insurance, health insurance, and those immediate expenses. Day 45, after that, you're taking care of the little stuff, closing out the actual bank accounts, transferring deeds, transferring titles and things like that.
So in a perfect world, like a 2-month process, kind of, sort of.
Yeah, I would say perfect world, 90 days, you can have everything taken care of.
Fool, I don't even want to talk about an imperfect world, because
yeah,
trying to find Ray. What the heck is Ray?
Exactly.
Hey, Phyllis, I had to do it. My husband and my mom left my brother and did a great job. We all made decisions. Absolutely. Miss Stanton, it's my sister and I. For my parents, we lose both at one time. Anthony asked you, your funeral service company has all of these services. What state is it in?
Well, I'm currently in Texas, and where I'm currently working at now is the second largest funeral home cemetery combo location. And when I say combo location, I mean we have a funeral home on site, we have a florist on site, we have a crematory on site, and we have a cemetery. We have over 400 acres of land for all cemetery products. And we're looking at traditional ground burial, we're looking at mausoleum entombment, we're talking about lawn crypts, and we're talking about cremation gardens and cremation niches and cremation statues, all the above. We have everything. Like when you come to us, you don't have to go anywhere else because you can get everything done in one location.
Man, that's right. That's wild, man. Wow. Executive handles the will or lack of will. All right. Now, if you pre-plan paying for service, how does your insurance connect when it's time for your transition?
Okay, that's a good question. So remember, pre-planning allows you to lock in today's prices, and you can also finance it when you're pre-planning. So you can make a monthly payment on your funeral services. So at my location, you can finance it up to 5 years. And so if something happens to you within those 5 years, then you can utilize your life insurance to pay off the balance. But of course, you're still going to end up paying that 5% fee because at my location is 5%. Some others, it could be a little bit higher. But so you can use that to pay it off if you haven't paid it off in full prior to having to use your pre-planned services.
Okay. Well, Anthony, I want to say, in the comments below, guys, want you to share anything that you learned today, your pineapple moment. Of course, we don't do this just to do this. We do this to make a difference. And this is all about education, free financial education for our community. So hopefully you've taken something away, and I'm sure you learned something today. That's right, man. You're going to learn today. Brother Anthony, man, while they're typing, you want to give you an opportunity to say any final words. This is Black Man Monday as well, but excellent job on learning. Your craft, being a leader in your space, and again, I always connect with you, brother, because you're an educator at heart, and I appreciate those that although educating others does lead to money and profit and all that stuff, but taking the time to really care enough to help people understand what they may not know, even if they don't use your particular service, I think. That says a lot about a man's character, man. But anyway, man, any last words to the peeps before we to close the show out?
Well, yeah, just start thinking ahead. And if anybody has any questions about this, because I know I laid out a lot of information all at one time within the last 30 minutes or so, and it might be a little bit overwhelming. You can always reach out to me, inbox me. I'm always here to answer any questions. And if I have any resources that I can share with you or lend you, I don't mind doing that. And like I said, if you inbox me, I'll give you my phone number, and then we can talk from there.
And that is Brother Anthony Sims. If you are watching on Facebook, it's Brother Anthony Sims. I believe, what is it on Instagram?
It's the same thing. On Instagram is I am Anthony Sims.
I am Anthony Sims. Right. I'm glad. Hey, I'm glad Anthony said something.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, if you Google the hashtag Glad Anthony said something, you'll find me there as well.
Absolutely. Antoinette Ross said, man, thanks for bringing out all aspects of stuff. Great information. I hope you guys share this out. Didn't know you could lose 5 to 7% of policy work before planning starts. Great information. Absolutely. Again, Brother Anthony, thanks so much for joining us here today on the Money and Power Show as we talk about money and the power. In life, right? Liabilities, income, funeral expenses, and education. We didn't get to that E part, but some things to, for you to consider, think about, especially as you're having these conversations about your transition to be with your creator, right? Your transition to be with the creator. It is going to happen. That's something that you can't avoid. So if we know something is going to happen, although we don't know when it's going to happen, then the question is, why not plan as much as we can for what we know will actually happen? And that's something we can't escape, is death itself, or our transition to the afterlife. Well, beautiful people, I'm your OCRGJ, your certified financial educator, and I want you guys to remember this, that it takes a village, and it starts with us. Let's keep building as we climb together. We all we got, beautiful people. Matter of fact, we all we need. And thank God that's more than enough. Until next episode, it's time to get up, to get out, and go get something. Mr. DJ, hit the music.
The new Black Wall Street. Thanks you for joining the show. We gave a lot of great tips, but it's time to go. Take the knowledge we shared, hope you use it and grow. We will see you all there in the next episode of